Hey guys, it's Maymay. So some of you guys may have followed me long enough to know that I have wanted to learn to quill for a very long time, and I never stopped and took the time to do it. Well, I heard from a lot of you guys, and you tell me you want to learn also because it's a very affordable hobby, and you can really buy a few tools and get started pretty easy. The next thing I heard from you guys, after I showed our new quilling kit, I showed it yesterday on Facebook, and I'll have a video for you guys on YouTube as well about our new quilling kit. But after I showed it, somebody said, but what would you do about card making with it so it doesn't get damaged in the mail? Well, I'm going to try something today for you guys to see if it'll work. And that is to make my own quilling strips from cardstock. Normally, quilling strips are paper, but I think if we do it from cardstock, we'll get enough security or enough stability from it that we can mail them through the mail and not have an issue. So first thing I'm going to do is make myself some quilling strips. Now, I know this makes no sense because this paper is pretty thick, but I still think it's going to work for us. I'm going to use some red and some green because I think I'm going to make a wreath on a card. I think we'll do that together. And I also need to say this. I've never done this before. This is all new to me. Like, the only thing I have made, I can show you, the only thing I've 100% completed is this little guy. And if you follow me on social media, you're going to get tired of seeing it. But I was so proud of it yesterday when I did it. So this is all I've done quilling-wise. So we're going to try this ourselves. The first thing I think, just from thinking logistically about the card making process, is that I want to do strips that are 1/8 inch instead of 1/4 inch. So this could be a little more difficult because I'm going to need to trim them down to 1/8 of an inch using my trimmer, and mine doesn't have it marked that small. So I'm going to have to make some marks for myself. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my ruler that does have 1/8 inches marked, and I'm just going to come out here and kind of see where, oh, look, this mark is roughly 1/8. So that's good. I'm going to use that as my guide. So the very first little mark, bring it up, that very first little mark right there is pretty much 1/8. So I'm just going to let that be what I use as my guide. So I'm going to put my paper in, line it up to the edge of that little mark. And especially with this, I'm going to sink my blade into the paper, push up and pull down so I get a nice clean strip. So you see that? So I'm just going to make my own quilling strips. And I'm going to be making leaves, holly berries, and a bow. That's my plan. I have no idea if it's going to work. We're going to find out together. So I'm going to make myself several strips like this in the 1/8 inch. And then we'll do the red. So now I've cut 6 red strips and just a handful, I didn't even count, of these guys. I'll get an accurate count and put it in the description below after we finish, since I'm kind of doing this as we go. I'm not going to do the bow yet. I'm going to save the bow for a few minutes. I have an idea for that. But let's make some leaves. So here's my plan for the leaves. I'm going to take these 12-inch strips and I'm going to fold them in half. What I have discovered about quilling is that to get a beautiful uniform piece, you want to use the same size strips for each item that you're creating. So in other words, if I'm making leaves, I want to use the same size strip for each one so my leaves are all uniform. It's the same width, the same length. Here's how I'm going to make the leaves. So I'm going to take my quilling tool. Should I zoom you in? Now, because I'm using cardstock, I'm going to take a bone folder. This is one from We Are Memory Keepers, and I've just decided to keep it with my quilling stuff, so I have it just for this use. And I'm going to curl this paper. It's cardstock, so I'm wanting to kind of bust up the fibers of the paper to make it curl better. Because I'm not using actual paper, I'm using cardstock. Now I'm going to take, and this is the hardest part for me because my eyes are getting old, I'm going to put this in to my quilling tool and start to turn it. And once I get a pretty good distance on it, where I can put my fingers around it, I'm going to hold it between my fingers like this and turn it, and I'll get a nice even twist. And just till it gets done, and then pull that away. Now I'm using the board. This comes in our quilling kit. I'm using this board, and this is the size circle I'm going to use. So I'm going to put this into the circle and then release it, and that will let it stretch to the size of this circle and not get any bigger than that. I know you can't see it, but I'm trying to get it in there. There we go. So I'm going to let that sit right there while I make some more, because look, I can make all of these before I have to glue them. So take some more, curl it up, and then put it into my quilling tool and twist it. Now I'm going to make a bunch of these leaves because these are going to be what create my wreath. And I probably should do, I might even should do 2 different colors of green. I may go back and make some more in a lighter color green so that I have a little bit of movement in the wreath that I'm making. So it's not just a solid, you know, 1 color green wreath. But check that out. I'm just going to let those sit there, and I'm just going to keep going, doing these in half, just like so. And then twirling them and putting them into the little spot. So I'm learning this, and do not worry, my whole channel is not going to be quilling, but I'm so surprised how many people wanted to learn along with me. It's been very interesting. So what I'm probably going to do is just find a way to do either an extra video or denote one of our videos a week to quilling for a little while until we get pretty comfortable with it. I think this is a fun hobby that anyone can do. And it's very affordable, because think about this. If you pick up the basic tools and you're making your own paper like I'm doing here, then we're using what's in our stash for paper. Although you can buy the pre-cut strips, and I'm carrying some of those in the store, but this seems to work really well. We'll see. I also think because I'm using the cardstock, it's going to be sturdier on our cards, so we can mail them. And I think I'm going to do a test. I think I'm going to make this card, and then I'm going to mail it to myself from my work location to my home. And check this out. Here's what's funny about that. Where I work, although I'm just a little bit from home, we have 2 different postal hubs. So I'm going to mail it from work, which means it'll go to another big city before it comes back. Basically, it'll hit 2 big postal locations before it comes to me. So we'll be able to see how it reacts in a lot of situations. Okay, so here they are ready to go. Now I'm just going to pick this guy up because he's to the right size. And I'm using my art glitter glue because it's perfect for this, because it dries fast. But you're going to use a tiny little bit of glue and just seal that down. Let that sit for just a second. I'm just going to let that one sit. We'll come back to it. I'm going to go ahead and glue all of these into place. You can see this kind of goes quick because, I mean, it's assembly line, and I love assembly line things. I think that's super fun to do. And then I'm going to show you how to turn them into the leaf shape. It's super simple. I don't know why I have just gotten the bug for this, but I have. It has just been one of those things that over time I thought I have to learn how to do this. It looks super fun, and I love the looks we can achieve. And I really want to try to do a lot of stuff I've seen online and what people have done. I want to really try to do some of the fancy stuff too. Okay, so those are drying. I'm going to go back to the one I did first. Now I'm letting the little, the end of the quill piece, I'm letting that be the bottom of my leaf. So when I pinch it, I'm pinching it opposite of that. So that's the bottom of my leaf, and I'm pinching at the top just like this. And that is going to be a leaf. How about that? That's the leaf for my wreath. So I'm going to put that over here. I'm going to do it again. So I'm letting the end of the quilled piece be the bottom, and I'm pinching opposite. And I'm trying to pinch far enough in that I get several of the pieces kind of pinched with it, so it gives it that really cool filigree look. End of it, pinch kind of deep. See how I'm going to go into the middle to get all of those pieces pinched. Isn't that cool how that works? It's so easy. And then pinch again. I love it. Okay, so I'm going to make a lot more of these. And I think I am going to go ahead and cut a lighter color green strip too, doing the same thing, but just a lighter color so I can have 2 different colors in our wreath. So I'm going to do that, and we'll be right back. For the bow, I'm going to use this border buddy, and this is the triangular shaped one. And I'm going to use a 6 by 1/8 inch piece, and I have discovered something. When I measured on my board what was 1/8 of an inch, when I cut it, it did not come out a true 1/8 of an inch. So this piece is not quite 1/4 of an inch and not quite 1/8 of an inch. It's right between the two. So it's a little bit thicker than I really would want. So if you want an actual 1/8 of an inch piece, you might need to buy your strips pre-cut, or cut them maybe using a paper shredder or something that cuts that small. I'm not really stressed about it. It's fine. It's going to be perfect. So I'm going to go with it. All right, for this, I'm going to use the third, actually not including this longer piece. I'm going to go down to the third triangle. Now you just look at your wreath and your card and decide how big you want to do this. And I'm going to wrap this guy around this triangle really snug. Now one thing I am going to do, and I'll show you because I have practiced this, I'm going to take a piece of plastic, some of my art glitter glue, and I'm going to put it on this piece of plastic just in a bead. And I'm going to use the pointy end of my quilling tool to add glue here, because when I'm doing this, I can get too much glue if I'm not careful. And also, I want each of these pieces to stay together, so I'm going to glue as I go around, just scratching on a thin layer of glue, and every time I pass, I'm going to glue those together. It's a nice thin layer. I just think I get a better look when this is finished, and it's not so loosey-goosey. Totally up to you if you want to do this part or not. To me, it just looks better. I'm learning this thing. I'm very, very sloppy at this point. I'm having a good time figuring it out and thinking all the possibilities. I actually have learned that I think my leaves are too big for a card. So in the future, I'll probably make them smaller. But that's even better. That means I'm going to use less paper, which is really cool. But we're learning. We'll learn as we go. That's how we do this thing, right? I still think this is going to work out just fine. I'll glue here for this last little bit. And that is now half of my bow. See that little triangle? That's going to be perfect. So I'm going to set that aside and make one more. I think with this, you just have to not overthink it. I think we can get, you can kind of see the big picture before, and it overwhelms you because, you know, the quilling can look so intricate, but it's really just simple twirling of paper, folding of paper on itself. It's really not a lot. It just can look like a lot. That's what I'm discovering so far. I hope you're enjoying this learn as I go situation. This may be terribly boring for some of you guys. You may be like, learn it and then come show us how to do it. And eventually it'll get that way. But I want you to see that I'm not afraid to try. It's just paper, and I want you guys to try it too. And I'm not afraid of making mistakes, because even my mistakes in quilling can be used, believe it or not. You'll find that as you go. So that's going to be our bow on our wreath. And right now it looks like, is it a bow? But it will be. I'll show you. Okay, bow pieces, holly berries. Look how we've got all of this stuff ready to go. Now let's put it onto our card front. Now you're going to see where I probably could have sized this a little better, but let me show you what I did. I took a piece of cardstock, cut it with a 2-inch circle punch, and then traced it onto a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece. So this is going to fit on an A2 size card. And you'll see here where I think that my leaves and things are a little bit too big. The first thing I'm going to do is a dry run. I always say do this anyway, so I'm just going to kind of lay these things out and decide where I want them to go. So this is where I want my bow to live, something like this. And I want to make sure I can get this to lay out like I want before I erase my circle. I want to make sure it'll fit. All right, so then I've got that. I'm going to start with some leaves and see how much bigger my leaves are. I really should have made them smaller, but we're going to keep going. We're going to see what we end up with. So there's a couple of leaves there. Maybe add another one here. And I only made 5 holly clusters, so I'm going to kind of spread those out around the wreath. Aren't they cute, the little holly berries? I think they're adorable. Now the big thing I'm doing is I'm making sure the back of my leaf lines up to my circular line. That way I know I'll stay, you know, in a circle, because you can easily get off of the circle if you try to do it without some kind of guide. And I'm just staying on that circle as much as I can. I'm going to add some more holly here. The holly berries really help to give you some filler and to keep you going in the circle. Obviously, my proportions are off. I'm noticing that my bow does need to be slightly bigger. I think I'm going to go back and make it a little bit bigger real quick and see what this looks like, since it's just paper. And let's just see what we get. So I made these a little one size bigger, so you can tell by looking at them now, you can tell they're one size bigger. And I've laid in all of the leaves. I think what I'm going to do is make another holly berry cluster to put right here over the top of the bow. And I think I'm going to quill inside of the bow and not leave it open like that to make it seem much fuller. So let me do that real quick. I'll show you how that works. Okay, so to fill this guy in, here's what we're doing. I'm taking a 6-inch by 1/8. Remember, my measurement was a little bit off. 1/8 inch strip, and I'm going to break up the fibers a lot because I need this one to be really loose. I'm going to curl it in one direction and the other. Remember, this is not necessary if you're using quilling paper. I'm just using cardstock from my stash and trying to make it as soft as I can. Okay, this is a fun technique. This is how I did the flower earlier. See how the little coils are on the inside? They're so cute. Here's what you do. So you start down about 1 inch from the top. You put your quilling tool onto the strip, okay? And you quill it toward the top. And see how it's bringing the top down and making a coil? And I'll show you when I let go. It kind of makes a double layer coil because of the way we're doing it. So there's one. Then you're going to move down another inch from that coil. And we're going to do it again. So right there, I'm going to coil, bringing that top coil to me. And I'm going to get that as close as I can. Okay, so you see now we've made 2 coils out of this one strip. Now I'm going to come another inch away, and I'm going to coil all of this together. I'm only making 3 coils out of this one to fill this bow, and that's going to be enough. I've done a test. Let me show you. So this is my test one. I filled in one side, so you can see how that looks. Let me move that up a little bit. So this is my test one that I did, and here's what you do. You take your little triangle that we made, and you go inside, and you put some glue, just enough to hold the coils in place when we put them in. But I'm using probably a little more than I normally would because I want it to grab everywhere. Then you take these little coils and you put them inside, and you just kind of make them fit. Just squish them in there. Very forgiving. That's what I love about this technique. So then look, your little bow is filled in. How cute is that, right? I left a little glue. I'm going to clean that up. So even though this is kind of messy now because I've moved it out of the way, look at the difference in this bow versus our last bow, because the last bow is a little too airy for me, and I think this one is better. You put that one where you can see it. This will be better. Now I can make tails if I want to. I think for my first try I'm not going to. I may make a couple more leaves and that little holly sprig and be done with this one. So let's get ready to put it together. So what I'm going to do here is add glue to my circle right here, the little half circle, and I'm going to start by placing the bow. I'm going to let it be kind of my center point. And I'm not doing this perfectly. I'm eyeballing like I always do. I'm going to try to get that as centered as I can and get that glued into place. So that's going to be my starting point. Then I'm just going to do exactly what I've got laid out here and glue them down. And I think I'm going to use my tweezers for this. I think I'll be happier. Add some dots of glue. The glue will go away, by the way, because it'll turn clear and matte finish so you won't see it. So I made myself some extra little holly berries. I'm going to put those in real quick. I'm not exactly sure where. I will tell you that through this learning process, I have discovered that my tweezers are going to be my best friend throughout this this technique, this new hobby. You see me shaking. It's such a habit of mine. It's just something I do. I use these tweezers to get that in. Plus, I'm using my left hand there, so that doesn't always help. Let's put a little glue in here to add a little holly berry. They're cute in there just for filler. And then I decided I was going to do a little freestyling. I'll show you what I mean. I don't know if this is like a quilling technique. I think I've seen something similar on Pinterest to what I'm going to do. I decided my bow did need some tails of sorts. And let me add this one right here. I just feel like the bottom needed a little more red. So there is that. Okay, so now here's what I did. I took a 6-inch piece, the same thickness, and I curled the 2 ends like this, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue it in at the center of the bow, just like this, together at the top, and then I'm going to pull these guys down and glue them where I want them. I'm not sure where yet, but see the difference that made? That kind of made it more frilly. So here's what I did. I'll show you. I took this piece. This is a 6-inch piece. I'm folding it in half, just like so. And then I'm going to take each end, and I'm curling it real tight at the very end. And then I just kind of loosen it once I get it where I want it. And then right here, I just kind of loosen my curl, and you'll see what that does. See how that just kind of is tight in the middle and then looser? And I'm going to do this one in the same direction. It's a pretty forgiving hobby, honestly. I'm sure you could mess this up, maybe. I don't know. It's paper. I always say you can't mess up paper because it's just paper. Okay, so then I'm just going to pull this one out a little bit. And when I put these on the page, I can place them exactly where I want them with the glue. So I'm going to put some glue here on this side for this one. Put it down in. Just right up against that bow. And then I will place them where I want them after I can kind of mess with them. Use my tweezers to get that right up in there. So it looks like one seamless piece. I'm also probably going to put a pearl in the middle anyway, just for looks. Okay, so this guy, I'm happy with where he is. So I think I'm just going to move it, add a little glue, pick him up with the tweezers, place him there, just like so. I'm not gluing the whole thing down. I think I'll come back and put some glue in there. And then I actually like how this one has landed. Just going to move him away, put some glue there. I'm going to pick him up and place him right on top. Isn't that cute? That really changed it, didn't it? And then this guy, I want to separate a little bit and kind of mimic the other side, but I don't want it to be a mirror image if I can keep from it, but I have a habit of doing that. Now to keep these little tendrils in place, I'm going to use the pointy end of my quilling tool and just put dots of glue here and there around the little swirly pieces. And that'll hold them into place. It's kind of like tacking it down. If I had my fine metal tip on my bottle, I would just go around with my fine metal tip and do this. But I took it off, and instead of getting another one right now, I'm just doing it this way. Before I go any further, I'm going to go ahead and glue this down to a card base. It's getting a little heavy, and this will help to even everything out. And then I'm just going to do a little decorating to the front. And then I'm going to mail this to myself. Remember I told you I wanted to see how this would go through the mail. And especially these little skinny tendrils, I wonder how they're going to hold up. So we're just going to try it and see if my theory of using cardstock, this is not going anywhere. I could press on this all I want. It's this down here that I think will probably be what is affected the most. I really think I could add some more swirls. And I could do that, but I'm not going to. I've got a little pencil mark right there. And this is just a test card. I've learned a lot already. One thing I wanted to do was Wink of Stella this guy. I'm going to see how this works if I take some Wink and paint it on. Oh, that does work. That glitter grabs onto the ends, and that is really good. That's cool. I'm going to do the whole thing like that. I was wondering if we would be able to do that because, you know, even if you had glitter paper, it wouldn't really show because, you know, the glitter's kind of on the inside. It would show on the edges. But this way, you can paint the glitter all over this dude. That's really cool. And it's not too much glitter. It's not so much that when the recipient gets it, it's going to just sprinkle everywhere. And for another little touch, I'm going to add a pearl here in the middle because I love a pearl at Christmas. I think that's perfect for the center of our wreath. So just grab this little guy and lay it down in that glue. Okay, I'm going to let this whole thing dry, and I'm going to put it in the mail and see what happens. And when it comes back, I will show you guys, and we'll see how this holds up. I'm not really sure how that's going to hold up. We'll see together. But that is quilling. So, wow, did I learn a lot. Number one, I learned that I've got to work much smaller on my cards, which is cool for something like this. Number two, I learned that I need to get a manicure because if I'm going to zoom you guys in this close, these nails need to be done. And I also learned that I think we can do this with cardstock. I think as long as we're kind of breaking up that fiber, it's going to work. I do think it's prettier with paper because I think the paper's a little more delicate and you get kind of a, I don't know, kind of a softer, frillier look, but I think this is going to work. I'm probably going to learn a whole bunch of stuff. Another thing is this shape, for me, this is not a 100% success, but it's not a failure either. I would send this card. I would be proud of it. So I hope you guys are enjoying this so far. I'm going to put a link below to the quilling kit that we do carry now in the store. I only had 50 of them all together, and I can't bring the kit back because I can't promise I can get the kits again, but we do have the individual items. So if you don't want the kit, maybe if you just want like the quilling tool and the little board, you can pick that up all separately, or you can purchase the kit. Hey, thanks so much for watching today, guys, and I'm anxious to see where this little hobby goes. I'll talk to you again real soon. Bye-bye.